Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Burbies 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Drink mix. I am Kevin Smith. Before we get to the top stories we are tracking, let's get to the front page comment of today's Kaieteur news. Poor people snatching phones, politicians snatching oil blocks. From top to bottom, Guyanese society is riddled with those who snatch what belongs to others, especially from the poor and the helpless. Snatching is so chronic that this country is now a snatcher's paradise. Young men on bicycles in the streets snatch purses with nothing inside, snatch cheap cell phones, snatch empty shopping bags. Poor citizens are so alarmed that they leave handbags home and walk with an umbrella only. Those are also snatched. Snatching, though never condoned, allows feeding families, paying their light bill, buying medicines. This is how bad things are in this richest of lands, where the poor are forced to snatch from their fellow poor. At the top, from comfortable in their duty-free vehicles or their high decision-making offices, young and old Guyanese men and women join with foreigner exploiters to snatch our gold and timber and bauxite. PPP and PNC leaders, so-called, partner with the outsiders to snatch the biggest prize of all, our fabulous oil wealth. And after these leaders have conspired with foreigners to rob us, they snatch a sweet and rewarding piece of the oil action for themselves. What they snatch will afford them to live like kings for generations to come. We could be the richest country in the world per person, but here are our hungry brothers forced to snatch the little that we have from us so that they can survive. What would the right-thinking citizens of any country do with leaders like these, who snatch away birthright and leave us starving and hopeless? Now for the top stories we are tracking in today's News at Noon. Remember, it comes to you with the compliments of Arasna Drink Mix. Global Witness report says APNU-AFC may have obstructed SARA's probe into Kanji and Kaieteur awards. Meanwhile, expert says local content policy must be hinged on a realistic assessment of a company's needs versus what nation can supply. And Trinidad Prime Minister says if conditions change dramatically, renegotiation is a reasonable demand. And opposition calls for PPP to regularize success squatters, says they would have done it in their second term. And moving on, 4 more to testify in Gary Best's dangerous driving trial. Stay tuned to stay informed.
Forever, and you've done baking, drawing, schoolwork, and played Ring of Roses about 100 times. We've all been under some strain lately, but let us embrace our children. They're under strain too. Let's show them more love, patience, and care. Let's help to build their resilience in these trying times, not just today or tomorrow, but for the future, their future.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
The APNU-AFC government may have deliberately stonewalled SARA in its probe of the awards of the Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks in the weeks leading up to the 2015 elections. This is according to a report titled Signed Away by Global Witness. The investigation started in May of 2018. 2 years later, Sarah has nothing to show for it. While in office, APNU-AFC was in the best position to assist the state investigator to complete the investigation with haste. Yet, even now, its leading officials claim not to know who the true beneficiaries are of the suspicious giveaways. During an October 2nd conference, opposition leader Joseph Harmon claimed that he did not know who the real owners of the Kaieteur and Kanji blocks are. He had said that he has some information on the matter, but that he did not want to put it out into the public, which was unverified, as he said that this information, which he received from someone overseas who reached out to him. In other news, as Guyana continues its efforts to develop a robust, Chatham House Associate Fellow Dr. Valerie Marcel has cautioned that the document would not be effective if it is not hinged on a realistic assessment and its subcontractors' need versus what the nation can supply. Dr. Marcel said that this step is one that countries do not do diligently. She strongly advised that there has to be very good communication between the company, the vocational centers, the universities, while adding that there needs to be a platform of some kind for that to happen. The industry expert was also keen to note that the assessment for skills in country as well as for the supply chain should not be a one-off activity before the policy is drafted, but rather a continuous one. Let's tell you now that it is important to maintain the sanctity of contracts signed by governments with oil and gas companies. But what is more important is ensuring that the citizens of a country receive value for the exploitation of the resource. If conditions become so different that the people aren't benefiting as much as they should, then renegotiation is reasonable. That is the opinion of Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. PM Rowley spoke on the country's plan to engage the shareholders of Atlantic LNG, a liquefied natural gas producing company. His administration had found that there was a need to discuss better terms and conditions for improved revenue for Trinidad and Tobago from LNG sales. The government of Trinidad and Tobago had seen willingness by those in the industry, according to Rowley, to renegotiate. And moving on, the APNU-AFC opposition is calling for the PPP government to regularize squatters of the Success area located on the east coast of Demerara. The coalition strongly condemned the removal of the squatters from the areas and also said that regularizing them is the most sensible and humane thing to do. The squatters have been tangled in conflict with authorities for a few weeks, who have been demanding their immediate removal. The coalition came under question about why they had not addressed the issue while in government, and Annette Ferguson, former minister responsible for housing, stated that it was something that was not brought to her attention when she was the minister. Further, she stated that the coalition would have addressed the issue of squatting in their second term. And now let's tell you that 4 more witnesses are expected to testify against former GDF Chief of Staff Gary Best in the trial for his dangerous driving charge in relation to the death of national cyclist Jude Bentley, who was killed last February. The trial commenced on Tuesday in the Georgetown Magistrates Courts before Magistrate Rondell Weaver. Yesterday, when the matter was called, 3 witnesses continued their testimony. After the witnesses testified, Magistrate Weaver adjourned the matter to today's date and October 13, 2020. According to Best's lawyer, Nigel Hughes, on those dates the prosecutor is expected to call for 4 more witnesses to testify against his client. You are tuned into Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 and 99.5 FM, and this is your News at Noon. It comes to you with the compliments of Ross and a Drink Mix. Coming up after the break, a cop who told a driver not to return with less than $5,000 busted. Crack gets 10 years for killing of Mahaika rice farmer, and government moves to finalize electronic communications and transactions. Do stay tuned.
Enjoy Free Night Talk with Digicel, the curfew edition. Get unlimited free talk to any Digicel number between 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. All you have to do is top up $1,000 or more every day before 6 p.m. to enjoy unlimited free talk. That's a whole lot of gaff. No more boring nights. You can now call your mommy, daddy, your bestie, your boo, even granny to tell them all that Digicel Unlimited Free Night Talk is back. Terms and conditions apply. Digicel, there with you.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. A police traffic rank attached to the Brigdam police station was busted by top officials from the Ministry of Home Affairs for allegedly trying to use extortion as a means of obtaining money from a minibus driver. In a press release sent out by the ministry, the cop had sent the man home to retrieve his fitness and told him not to return with nothing less than $5,000. The statement detailed that the rank was patrolling on a motorcycle and had pulled over the minibus driver on Wednesday at the Stabroek Market. He reportedly asked the man to inspect his documents and discovered that his vehicle's fitness was missing. We were told that the cop then seized the opportunity to make some quick cash. The rank has since been removed from the traffic department and is expected to face disciplinary measures. In other news, former murder accused Paul James was yesterday sentenced to serve 10 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to the unlawful killing of Mahaika rice farmer Hardat Kissoon. Paul James, called Crack, of Lodge, Georgetown, was sentenced to jail by Justice Navindra Singh at the Georgetown High Court after he pleaded guilty to the lesser crime of manslaughter for the June 1, 2015 unlawful killing. According to facts of the case, Kissoon was shot and killed while he was a passenger in a minibus that was traveling along with the University of Guyana access road. The father of three was reportedly shot dead by a bandit who was posing as another passenger. Kissoon had just joined the bus after leaving a Citibank with $500,000. And moving on, the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce under the new government of Guyana has initiated moves to advance the reform and modernization of the business sector. The ministry is proceeding with the finalization of the Electronic Communications and Transactions Bill of 2019. Against its backdrop, the ministry, with the support of the Office of the Prime Minister, is inviting public comments on the draft bill. In other news, Minister of Public Works Juan Edgil said that the government will be allocating funds in the 2021 budget to construct bicycle lanes in order to reduce road deaths among pedal cyclists and pedestrians. According to information from the Guyana Police Force Traffic Department, for the period January 1st, 2020 to October 6th, 2020, Guyana recorded a 51% increase in deaths from 37% increase in road accidents, with 103 accidents resulting in the death of 112 persons. And moving on, 60-year-old Alan Sim, who is on trial for murder, joined the High Court proceedings via Zoom from the Lusignan prison yesterday. Sim of Paradise Housing Scheme, East Coast Demerara, stands indicted for the 2015 murder of 32-year-old Melissa Skeet, the mother of his child. Skeet, a dispatcher attached to the Georgetown Public Hospital, was allegedly stabbed several times about her body on Carmichael Street in the vicinity of Bishop's High School. A police witness claimed that during the parade, someone identified Sims as the person responsible for the crime. The trial is continuing. And now for your COVID-19 update. The Ministry of Health reported 37 new COVID-19 cases yesterday, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 3,329. There are currently 16 persons in the COVID-19 ICU at the Georgetown Public Hospital. Further, 151 persons are in institutional isolation, 896 are in approved home isolation, and 66 are in institutional quarantine. The COVID-19 death toll remains at 98, and a total of 2,165 persons have recovered. And coming from CNN, the world has recorded its highest number of daily COVID-19 cases since the pandemic began, fueled by a second wave in Europe. President Trump has been cleared by his doctor to resume public engagements, but there are still unanswered questions about his health. The World Food Programme won the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize as the world grapples with the pandemic-induced food crisis. And China has signed on to the WHO's COVAX initiative, which aims to provide worldwide access to effective COVID-19 vaccines. And that brings us to the end of today's news at noon. The news came to you with the compliments of Rasina Drink Mix. I am Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums: